All right. Hey, everybody, it's your main man, Jaleel Mans, and welcome to the Marketing Velocity Podcast, where we help you get the speed and direction you need to market your business effectively. Today, I've got the man himself. If things are warming up in your house, I know this isn't summer, but when it was, it's getting hot and you needed that colder ice. This is the guy right here, man. I had no idea about e-com, but John is killing it. He's killing it, crushing it. And I know we're heading into Black Friday and Cyber Monday and oh man, all of these cyber holidays we got now, right? And John was a man that came to mind. That's like, you know what? We're going to talk e-com stuff. We're going to talk e-commerce. This is the one to bring to the table. John Lawson, how are you, man?
What's up? Thanks, bro. I appreciate the intro.
Well, I'm sure your intro will be better than mine because so far there's a few of us out here that know you, but tell the people about who you are and what you do.
All right. So, like you said, my name is John Lawson, aka Colder Ice. That's one word. You can look it up on Google and you'll find me. And that was because my name is so common. I had to come up with something. And so Colder Ice came to mind. So I'm pretty much Colder Ice on all the platforms. I've been doing e-com since 2001. I started my business at the kitchen table, literally because I was about to go bankrupt. And somebody, a friend of mine told me, hey, why don't you sell some stuff on eBay? And the rest is history. I ended up leaving my corporate job in like 2004 and never looked back. So been in this game for now over 20 years. Crazy to think about. So I'm old school.
Yeah, man, you're old school. I mean, I remember doing my first website in 91. They're like, hey, everybody else is getting one. I don't know what I'm doing. They don't know what they're doing. They're like, just here, just take the check. We'll buy you the HTML Bible, which was 1,000 pages of information. I wish I could just jack in like the Matrix to get all of that. They paid for my dial-up internet and they fed me occasionally, and that was a start. But man, you jumped into e-com way before I did, at least 5 or 6 years before I did.
Well, yeah. I mean, eBay made it easy. That's what it really was. eBay made it easy.
Yeah, and so we're heading into this time now where at the time of this recording, Black Friday's coming up, Cyber Monday. Everybody's trying to put their deals out there, trying to put a plan together last minute. Some people are launching their Black Friday deals to get ahead of the competition. So I know there's some e-com people out here. Some people use different platforms. John, I mean, it sounds like it could be a potential train wreck, man. Where do people start?
I mean, you know what? First, I'm going to tell you, you start in July.
Yeah.
Right? There's a reason why there's something called Christmas in July. Because, in an e-commerce business, you really want to be thinking ahead. If you have not done your thought process around what you're going to do for Black Friday, you're really going to run hard now. All right. But it's not that hard. I mean, if nothing else, have an offer that is so enticing, so hard to believe that people will take the offer. All right. It's all about making a good offer because it's so noisy that weekend, that whole weekend, because you go from, Thanksgiving. Don't get it twisted. It actually starts again on Thanksgiving, right? People are not going to go out. A lot of stores are saying, okay, we're going to be closed on Thanksgiving. We're going to respect the holiday. But that doesn't mean that the shopper is respecting the holiday. They're still ready to shop. After they get the turkey gone, the game on, they're going to possibly pick up that phone and just start looking for gift ideas. That's on Thanksgiving. Then on Black Friday, it's something that you want to participate in, just to say, hey, we've got an offer for you on Black Friday, but it's very noisy. And you're dealing with the large retail brick and mortars and the people that are just going out and shopping. So that's not necessarily our day, but actually Amazon, American Express created a day for us, which is Small Business Saturday. So sometimes you can piggyback off of the sales that did happen or did not happen on the Friday and push it into Small Business Saturday, because that's the day where we as small businesses have the voice, and where people that are trying to make that choice to buy from local business, from small mom and pop shops, are going to be looking for that unique items and those unique deals. So that's what you got on Saturday. And then, of course, once again, Cyber Monday, it's, a free for all. But the deal is, for you to stand out on those days, you got to have something that's unique and a offer that is like, I wouldn't say it has to blow people's mind, but it has to make them take action. They have to feel as though, if I don't get in now, I'll never see this again. And one of the things that's kind of in our favor, but not in our favor, is what's going on with logistics right now. It's making the news, right? And so people are seeing that, the harbors are backed up. And, I even saw it on CNN the other day. They're saying, what's Christmas going to be like? So it's time to get people to purchase early, right? So you can say, hey, get this now before we run out, because you know how it's going to be with all the crowd and the rush and the shortages, you know what I'm saying? And you can use that as well as a enticement for people to make moves. But I mean, that's what Black Friday is all about. It's about making an offer and getting in front of people and making them buy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that you're right. And I see a lot of people out there, they're trying to tune up 2, 3 offers, and man, at this stage of the game, I never really advise that. I like that one compelling offer that makes them pull the trigger, right? And it's either, for me, in my mind, it's either like scarcity or urgency, and if I'm lucky, I can get both in there. So a lot of my coaching and stuff, I'm only going to work with a few people, right? I want it to be effective. And I want the people who want it the baddest, right? The work, right. They want it the worst. They're like, okay, give me that money, like you said, like here, Jaleel, take my money. I want to be in on this. And so with that, right? I mean, you mentioned logistics. There's something else to consider on the other end of that, right? You're making this offer. I mean, what if it blows up like gangbusters? Like, logistically, should a lot of our audience, our listeners here be, and viewers obviously too, should they be considering logistically what that looks like inside of their organization? If I'm going to sell a bunch of stuff, am I going to be able to deliver on that, or am I going to blow up my reputation? I mean, what are your thoughts, John?
Look, you do not want to blow up your reputation. You do not. You don't want to oversell. You want to sell what your inventory is, and when it's gone, because the last thing you want to do is have this reputation of ruining somebody's Christmas. That's just the worst thing in the world, man. And I think a lot of Christmases are possibly going to be ruined this year just because of some of the backlog. But I mean, be cognizant of where you are throughout the entire process and be ready to cut it off when you need to cut it off, if that's the case. I mean, that's the best case scenario. Now, there's another angle here, is that if you sell high in demand product and you know that there might be a shortage of that product coming closer to Christmas, then you might hold off. Maybe you don't discount or deep discount for the Black Friday, and you hold for the last 2 weeks before Christmas, and then you let it out, and you're kind of like the only one with that Lego set because everybody got them during Black Friday week. And there's a little balancing game that we play, and I'll never forget one of my stories is that I did that with a very, very popular toy that I was able to actually get my hands on. And it was like Tickle Me Elmo. It was the biggest. I mean, it was the biggest. Everybody had to have this toy. And I had a couple of vans full of Tickle Me Elmos. And I held those things till 14 days before Christmas. And we got those things off at probably, it was It was highway robbery, but people wanted it, you know. But so
Yeah.
you've gotta. There's a balancing game there, you know. And I know I was taking a risk, but I knew that the demand and the supply were out of balance. So you want to look at that as well. So yeah, I don't suggest necessarily that you deep discount everything, 25% off for Black Friday when you know that this will sell all the way through, and maybe you don't have to discount as much. You'll get some of the sales now and some of them later. So think about it.
That's a good point, man. I mean, I busted my phone up. My iPhone, I tried for years not to replace it. I had that 7 Plus, and I'm like, man, if I drop this in the parking lot one more time, I hope it still works. Yeah, because I don't want to get another one. And so I ended up getting another phone anyway, and speaking of those logistics, right? Apple's suffering with that iPhone 13.
Yeah.
I was reading on LinkedIn. I mean, they were looking at losses. I don't know if it's accurate now, of like 8 billion because of the logistic nightmare. Um, I even saw another article deeper than that was talking about they're taking some of the chips that they were going to use in the production for the iPads to use those in the phones so that they could catch up and try to reduce their losses.
Wow.
Yeah, and so they did the launch. We all know how Apple does their launch, man. I mean, everybody is drooling, man. I gotta get the new iPhone. I gotta get it, gotta get it. And so now, that leads to that logistic nightmare, and so for a smaller business owner, an entrepreneur, small business owner, what could they do, logistically to make sure that, you know, something similar doesn't happen?
Yeah, I mean, right now, there's not a whole lot you can do. I mean, here's the thing. There's some things that you can control and some things that are out of our control. We can't control a ship in the dock that can't offload our crates. We can't control that, you know? And so sometimes you might have to pivot. You might have to look at carrying other items that are maybe related to what you do or even not related to what you do, and just making it available. If you could find, I remember, you remember fidget spinners that one year. I mean, we sold those and that had nothing to do with our product line, but the demand was there. And if we were able to tap into a supply, then great, we can bring that in. So that's what, Apple's doing. What is Apple doing right now? You're saying they're taking these chips that were reserved for the pads, putting them in the phone so that they can get the phones out. So sometimes you've got to pivot, and you can't control the parts that are out of our domain, and then start thinking strategically about what we can do and bring on to maybe offset until we get over this hump, you know. But start thinking now. Start having those conversations as soon as you get off this call, right? As soon as you stop watching this, start really thinking about
Yeah, I started thinking about it too
that.
because
Exactly.
I had an e-com store I set up. It was I'm sure it was a Shopify store, right? And I'd never done drop shipping before. So I'm like, let me set this thing up. Let me see how it goes. And I know that people in my neighborhood still think I'm some sort of maniac, like, because I was in the grocery store and I've got my Shopify store hooked up. And so I'm selling on Amazon, eBay, and I made these assumptions. Like I was like, oh, Amazon's gonna blow up for me. I'm selling like kitchen stuff, kitchen
Mhm.
appliances, kitchen utensils. But that wasn't it. It was actually eBay that was blowing up, right? And so I'm in the grocery store in the produce section, looking at carrots, celery, and then my phone is just, how when a sale comes through, ka-ching, ka-ching. And so I'm laughing maniacally in the produce section, and people are moving away from me. They're like, "What's up with this guy?" I'm like, "No, I'm getting paid, man. I'm getting paid." Well, that was fun until I had I was getting, 20, 30 orders a day, and I wasn't staffed up to handle that. I was
Right.
busy, and so I was like, shoot, I need help real bad, real bad. Like I need somebody to communicate with the customers. I wasn't aware of how fulfillment work from China, right? It's not exactly the same as the US, right? So I had people waiting on orders. I had people who were upset, right? And they're like, where's my thing, man? It's 20 something days. I'm like, come on, I promise, man. If I got to swim over there to go get it, I'll get your product to you. Just hold on, hang in there. I got you. And so those were one of the nightmares I had to deal with. And then I ended up taking on a few team members to kind of help with that customer service aspect so that I wasn't drowning, And so I say all of that just to say, some of these things, like you were saying, outside of our domain, I can't control that. I can't control how they fulfill stuff and supply stuff in China, but I can control my customer service and how I interact with my customers and how I keep them happy. So you have any thoughts on that, John?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things is the more times you contact the customer, you reset their expectation. So if I tell them, okay, as soon as they order the product, the first email is usually the confirmation of the order. Then, if you tell them, hey, we're prepping your order, it should be shipping soon, that resets their expectation. Then you send them the order saying, hey, it's on its way. Here's your tracking. That resets their expectation. So all of a sudden, what ends up happening is it helps with their satisfaction rate. Because if they think, here's the thing is like Amazon has set an expectation in most customers' minds that everything's supposed to be like Prime. But the world doesn't run on Prime. Amazon runs on Prime, but what they've done is that new people that come and into the e-commerce space actually think everything's supposed to come in 48 hours. That's what happens with Amazon, right? And unless you set their expectation, then their expectation is going to be a Prime delivery expectation. So as long as you communicate, as long as they know where we are in the process, how long it's going to take, if there is a delay, you don't want to run away from those communications. You don't want to, don't tell him anything. That kind of thing, that can hurt you massively, right? Because all of a sudden you're starting to see these negative reviews popping up and you're like, hey, it hasn't even been, 5 days. Well, that's because you didn't set their expectation for 5 days. And trust me, just because you say, oh, it's a bullet point at the bottom of our terms of agreement, ain't nobody reading that stuff. Stop acting like people read. People don't read.
That's right.
Yeah, well, we said it. No, you didn't. People don't read. So you want the most important stuff to be next to the price, right? The most important stuff, the closer to the price on the page that it is, the more likely it's going to be read. And the fact is, it still might not be read. So you have to repeat that over and over again to make sure that these customers' expectations are being met and set and met. Cool.
I love that, man. I love that. Expectations set and met.
That's right. Actually, you're supposed to exceed it.
Exceed it whenever possible.
That's right. So that's another thing. If you get your products to people in 3 days, we tell them 3 to 5 days. Why? Because now we got it on the low end of that expectation. And they're like, man, they really got, perception is everything. They're thinking
that's right.
3 to 5 days and hoping 3. And we know we're going to get it there at 3. That extra 2 days is a grace period. Absolutely. But it also gives us grace because people really think that we're on top of it. It's like I was at the restaurant just the other day, right? I walk in, I order my food, and I'm like, I know I got to wait 30 minutes, for this preparation, So he's like, hey, come back in 25, 30 minutes. I go out to the car, start playing my video games. I forgot to order one thing. I walk back in, I order it, and I was like, whenever you're ready, I got it, blah, blah, blah. And then I decide to sit in the restaurant. And like 2 minutes later, he brings my order over, right? And it's been maybe a total of 15 minutes. And I'm like, guys, I was so happy with the service because it felt like, they paid extra attention to me, but they probably did. I'm sure they get everybody's order done in 15 minutes.
Hey, when they figured it out, they stuck with what works.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and I love Chinese food. I love Asian food in general, right? And so when I want Peking duck, at my favorite place, it says right there on the menu, order 24 hours ahead of time.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, okay, so if I got to wait a whole day to get this, it's got to be good. That's the first thing, right? But I appreciate the heads up because now I know, when I order from you guys again, this is not a spur of the moment impulse buy. This
Right.
is, I need to plan ahead. I know my friends are coming over to watch, one of these Texas football teams play, and I want to have that duck here. So I need to do that, probably Friday afternoon, not so much Saturday, but just give them as much heads up as possible.
Yes.
And so that was great, man. So I think my butt was really pulled out of the fire and saved by some of the VAs that I hired to help manage the customers that I was about to lose. Because I started to see those refunds pile up, and I was like, snap! eBay's not going to like that. Amazon's not going to like that. And so I was like, I gotta stop the hemorrhaging. Before this was pre-COVID, so I kind of had my my mask on, I'm like this. I'm like, all right, nurse, we gotta stop the hemorrhaging here. And so it was my VAs that really pulled my butt out of the fire. In fact, we've been working for, I don't know, that was 2017. So it's like 4 years now, right?
Really?
They've been pulling my butt out of the fire and multiple, ventures that I've got. So, how do you do the same thing too? You have a team that helps you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a virtual team as well. And part of it is because, I was able to figure out that I had work that needed to be done, but I really didn't want a employee in the office. And it was just kind of, part of that was just me. I didn't want to show up to work every day just to unlock the door so that the employees could come in, that kind of thing, and I started looking online and found, I can't remember the site back in the day, but today it's called Upwork, right? And I hired a virtual assistant, and their main job was to do, like you're just saying, answer emails, tier one, problem resolution. And then, once we got them on, I'm like, here's the script. If they ask this, you answer that. If you ask this, you answer that. Anything that's not on the script, you just ping me and I'll take care of it. That was my first hire. And it worked out, like you said, it worked out so well, that we ended up just expanding virtually. And today I've got, I think my first VA is still with me. She's been here 7 years. And I mean, I trust her with everything. I mean, she even helps me hire other VAs. She does my travel arrangements for me. She pays some bills. She handles outsourcing work to other, virtual assistants and or just one-offs, so that's one of those kind of things where I've been able to expand my team virtually and not have the overhead that I would if I were doing it onshore. So I'm offshoring a lot of the work, and it's helping me to just keep my sanity and grow my business, right? Because I don't have necessarily the same issues to deal with. I have different issues. They're different issues, but I'm able to manage and grow this business, which is basically a mom and pop business. And like I said, we started our kitchen table, and we're doing 7 figures now with all virtual team. Not bad.
I mean, not bad. This is the man of modesty right here, John. It's that is super impressive. And I gotta say, my VAs, I go offshore. I've got some amazing people from from the Philippines. I'm gonna be straight
Yeah.
up about that, what I could say about my VAs is that, they and this isn't I'm including all of them. I'm not just saying people out of the Philippines, but what really surprised me was the respectfulness, the
Oh,
professionalism, the attention to detail, from the VAs that I have. I was surprised to get emails with questions like, "Oh, I was going to send that email out, but I've got a few questions." I'm like, I love questions. Yes, please, right?
right.
Um, and then the other side of that too is, I'm not sure how accurate it is now, right? But the amount of money that they make in a country like the Philippines is minuscule compared to like minimum wage here in the US.
Right.
Right. So I've always taken that initiative to say, okay, and this varies based on your business model, but I try to pay them more than minimum wage in the US, right? As an incentive to say, okay, sure, I could get them at a lower rate, but I want to give them above and beyond. Like an agency I went through, they said, well, we pay our VAs this much. And I said, well, put this many more dollars on top of that, right? Because I want the best, right? I want people who want to grow, people who want to stay with me, right? And so I always put that little icing on top, or for our friends in the South, right? We put a little gravy on it, right? And that's what makes it better. So, I was just really blown away with the level of professionalism and just it was what I needed to save me from having a heart attack or stroke because
Right.
man, my first bout in the e-com arena, like I built sites for other people, but I didn't have my own until 17. And so I was like, shoot, man, this is like fighting Mike Tyson in his prime. I'm getting pummeled here. And like part of me just wants to lay down and take the 10 count. But the other part of me is like, it's more like Sylvester Stallone, right? I'm doing the Rocky thing. Like, I'm just going to get up. I'm going to take it again. I'm going to take it again. I'm going to let this guy get tired on my face, just punching out on my face, and I'm going to outlast him. And so it was because of my team that I was able to do that I was
Yeah.
able to survive. Because the truth is, you may think that you're an island. You may think that you could pull it off on your own. But I can guarantee you, if you're having even moderate success with your e-commerce store, you're going to need help at some point.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be able to do it on your own, and if you do, you're not doing it as well as you could. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, look, I stopped mowing my lawn years ago because I realized that's not work that I need to be doing. I got $1 million ideas. A lot of you guys got $1 million ideas out there, and you're out there doing $20 an hour work. Why? Why? So it's really just to free up your time to focus in on the things that are going to be revenue generating. And that is why I tell most people, I'm like most CEOs and business owners, I tell them, do you have a virtual assistant? Do you have an assistant at all? Whether you call it virtual assistant, executive assistant, whatever. You really need to think about a lot of the day. You have to sit down and look at your day and recognize that you're doing, $10 an hour work when you are the CEO of the company. That makes no sense, and it's so easy to offset that work and push that off to an assistant, which will allow you to focus in on the things that make your business more money. So every morning, I don't need to be going through my emails to figure out which ones are important and which ones are junk mail and then removing myself from the junk. Somebody can do that for you. Making calendar appointments, somebody else should be doing that for you. You're the CEO. We need to stay on CEO task, and stop washing the dishes in your business all day. It just doesn't make any sense. You're losing money by not having that kind of help and knowing that there are people, like you said, overseas. They have a different scale. It's a different scale. If you live in Iowa, you don't pay the same amount for an apartment as somebody in New York City. So if you want to raise, you could literally move from Iowa, do the exact same work, and go to New York City and get paid more, simply because the cost of living is higher. The cost of living in the Philippines is lower than it is here in the United States, And so we do things like you were saying, we pay them a fair wage. We make sure that they have sick time. Every month they get sick days, they get vacation, they get a bonus, all of these things we throw in to incentivize them to stay. And that's how I do have people that have stayed with me for all these years, is simply because when, apples to oranges, it's like, yeah, I could go out and mess around with something else, but it's not guaranteed. I know this is a good company. They reward me for my work. They pay me well, and they stick and they stay. And the culture is so different, because we talk about, I've seen a lot of business owners right now, especially talking about how they're having problems finding good workers. Oh, these millennials, they just don't want to work. I'm like, well, I don't have that problem with my millennials. They're lovely to work with, and their desire is to make sure that I'm happy. That's all they care about. They see that's all it is. Are you happy? Yes, I'm happy. I'm happy. Stop asking me. I'm happy. I'll let you know when I'm not happy. But there's a lot of opportunity out there for you to get the help that you need. And I told you prior to the call, I was like, I'm doing this thing. It's like how to hire a VA, howtohireva.com. You go over there, and I'd give you a free, a doc that talks about all the things that you can have people doing to help you grow your business, so you can focus in on the task that you need to focus in on. So definitely.
God, you're speaking my language. I mean, I hear people complain a lot, and maybe you need to reach out further, and it wasn't a cakewalk to hire a VA, because I was unimpressed with a few people that I reached out to. I have a VA agency, and I'm like, well, how come you didn't get back to me, or how come you didn't show up on the call yourself? Not a good first impression.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't stay there. I didn't stay in that little kiddie pool of disappointment. I just branched out, and then one day I just had a thought. I was like, you know what? Let me run this same ad in the Philippines and see what happens. Let me run this in Bangladesh or Indonesia, and let me see what happens. Man, my inbox blew up. And they're like, $8 an hour. What? I make like 3 or 4. Is that position still open? Because I'm available right now. And so
they want to work that day. Can we start now?
Yeah, they're like, what's the holdup? What do you mean you want to interview tomorrow? Because I'm free today. Like right now, if you have time, sir, I can definitely talk to you. I have one kid. He used to go to a cyber cafe. He didn't have a laptop. He didn't have internet, but he would get that what do they call them, the pedal cabs, and he'd catch one of those to an internet cafe. He's like, sir, I'll be online in like 30 minutes, and I'm pushing. I can hear him kind of yelling at the guy, like, hurry up, pedal faster, right?
Pedal faster.
Yeah. I love it, man. I love it.
That's too cool. That's too cool. I mean, yeah, absolutely. You can hire a full-time, and that's the difference. There's these agencies. I don't deal with the agencies. I've dealt with agencies before. I prefer to hire full-time in my business. And I get full-time workers for between, $400 to $500 a month. All right.
Wow.
Full-time, $400, $500 a month, and the actually $300 to $500 a month, because I'll start them on the low end, which is still a good number for them, and I let them set their rate. I don't set their rates. I let them tell me what they want.
That's great. I didn't think about that, but
right.
I'm stealing that though.
Yeah, definitely. Let them set their rates. Now, then you negotiate from there, so you can see where their head is at. The other thing, like I said, I like full-time workers. I don't want them doing anything else though. So one of the questions that I ask them, and this is the key question for me, is where do you see yourself in 5 years, in 3 to 5 years? So if they say, well, I'm in, dental school and I want to be a dentist, I'm like, you know what? Fantastic. Go be a dentist. You're not going to be the perfect worker for me. But the person that says, I can see me, being a manager in your organization, that's the guy I'm going to hire. So I don't really hire on skill. I hire on the desire, I mean, of course, they
Yeah.
got to have some skills, but everything that I'm going to teach them, I want them to do it my way. I don't want you bringing me, well, we worked with so and so. I don't care. You're going to do it John's way because that's just I'm the boss. I want you to look, trust and believe that if you move from, KFC to McDonald's, you're not going to do things KFC way at McDonald's, and so that's the way we are. And we've got good, strong processes. It's not, it doesn't have to be long and drawn out. But as long as we have a stepped and bullet point system of this is what you do, then you bring in people into your organization. They have a framework to move from, and then I will grow them up from there. I want you to be the mailroom person that turns into the executive, because that's going to be the best CEO of a corporation at any given point if you actually moved up the entire chain. And that's what I try to do in my organization. And it works.
Genius. I love that. And that's the one thing I didn't share about the VAs that I think that you would be intrigued about, is that I followed that same methodology back in my days, when I was restaurant manager. The owner used to corner me all the time. He's like, why are you hiring these people with no experience? And I told him, I said, one, I like dry sponges because they soak up the most water, right? Two, I don't have any bad habits to break. I used to have this guy and he's like, oh, this is how we used to do it at Popeyes. And I'm like, look at your shirt, man. Does it say Popeyes? Because you could have a shirt that says Popeyes if you keep it up, right? But what was most interesting was I hired 5 VAs. This was my experiment. So I hired 5. None of them had any experience with digital marketing. They all got the same rate. They were assigned similar tasks, and one was left out of the 5, like out of that original experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I loved it because I didn't have those bad habits to break. I didn't have to deal with those comparisons. Well, when I worked on this guy's campaign, we did la la la. I can't hear you, right? Like that's not what we're talking about. And so, I love that experiment. It was a costly experiment at the rate I was paying them because it was a generous rate. But it taught me something. And I learned that, like you were saying, just to reinforce what you're saying, I was hiring for culture and not the skills. I can teach the skills. I've been doing this for this company. My current company has been around 12 years, but I've been in the space. I did my first website actually 3 decades ago, right? So yeah, I might know a little bit. I'm not the biggest and the brightest, but I know a little bit. And so I can teach those skills, but the work ethic, the initiative, things like that, those are what I'm looking for. Like you were saying, somebody who wants to take the ball and run with it, because I may be looking for another CEO one day, right? And I don't want to look externally for that. I want somebody who knows the process. They know the culture. They know how to speak to my clients. They know how to do all the things, right? And so I love when you said that. And so we've been jamming for a minute, man. I always love talking to you. But we're at that time. I love to have you back again. But I also wanted to kind of close this out. You mentioned your site, how to hire a VA. You've got a free guide they can download there. Are there any other next steps that somebody in our audience might want to take to take the next step? Maybe go 2-3 times faster.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I consider myself like I'm the guy that helps you skip over things, right? So if there's a pathway, and if you want some of the obstacles removed from your path, then that's kind of when you get some coaching with me, because I'm going to be able to either plug you into the network of people that I know that are great service providers for the things that you might need, but also I'm going to help you identify areas for growth and really be able to move your e-commerce business or your small business forward in these different areas. So, I mean, if you're interested in something like that, just reach out to me. I'm at johnlawson.com. So just my name, John at johnlawson.com. You'll be able to get me directly. And you can always go over to johnlawson.com and see my site, whatever, blah, But if you want to know who I am, just Google Colder Ice. You'll see it everywhere, right? That's me.
Right.
I own it, bro. I own it.
That's right. The ice is always colder.
Yes.
Ice cold, man. I always love talking to you, man. You're always like multiple light bulbs popping on over my head every time I talk to you, man. So I look forward to doing this again. You got something coming up you want to promote or whatever. That's what it's all about. Making sure that we're empowering our audience, man, to take action, overcome these speed bumps, these hurdles, get them out of the way, get over, get under, go left, go right, go through it if you have to,
Right.
But, smash that and then move forward so that you can get to where you want to be.
Awesome.
All right.
I appreciate it, and get ready for this Black Friday. It's about to be crazy.
That's the way we love it.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot, John.
All right, brother. Take care now.
All right. You too.
Peace.